Alright, so let me give this link to the Patreons and we will get started. Alright. So I'm gonna start off just by saying that I didn't get nearly as much sleep as I would have liked to last night, so this one might be a little bit interesting. Refresh this because Minecraft. And yeah, I might be a little bit distracted today, but I wrote a list of things to go over, and that should work out pretty well. So hopefully some folks start hopping on soon, and we can get started. Gotta drag this over there. Again, just waiting for some Patreons to hop on, and we'll get started in a bit. Bunch to discuss today. Some live demos I'd like to do. I've been doing a ton of playtesting, so this should be a little bit more colorful than some of the previous streams. I don't really plan on doing too much development as part of this one, but more going over what's been developed and what I'd like to do in the next couple weeks, and get some feedback. So, looks like some folks are hopping in. So I'll give it a few minutes, let Minecraft boot up. Yeah. And if you're a Patreon watching this after the fact and you haven't seen announcements so far, I am running a Minecraft server that you are more than welcome to join on 1.7.10 based on the Darvel 20 pack for that version. It's what I've been doing a lot of playtesting on, and it's got the latest and greatest custom immersive railroading in UMC. Currently running in a semi-stable environment off my local system, but I've got a plan to move that to the cloud once I start playtesting other versions, which I actually need to talk about today. Just waiting for this to do stuff. Bloop. Also, we're going to try streaming. We'll see how well this works today. I've been having some VRAM issues on this pack. Nobody else has. It's just been my machine, which has been a little fun. Hey, Sebastian. Yeah. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Right. Okay. What was I just saying? Oh yes, versions. Late. Alright. Just waiting for some more people to hop on. But yeah, we're doing pretty good. So I have spent, because I'll just start talking about what I've been doing. So I've spent the last, this isn't creative, this is survival. I've spent the last week or so on this 1.7.10 server, getting set up and doing some of the grind just to remember like what actual resource costs are like in Minecraft, and seeing how immersive railroading fits into that, because that's going to shape what 1.11 kind of looks like. And let me make sure I've actually got OBS set up correctly to record my audio. I think it is. Can you guys hear me on the stream okay? Okay. Hey, Lurky. Yeah, I think the audio is coming through okay. I've messed with some of my settings recently, so we'll see. Yeah, so there's been a bunch of people on. Why is my, so Mitch has been helping out a bunch with some Mistcraft stuff. Larky's been on, Tigerbird, Nathan, Sebastian, just a ton of people. wrong weekend. And so we've built up this setup. So this is a fairly, maybe not standard, but like somewhat reasonable mid-game setup for 1.7.10. And honestly, most kitchen sink packs, which is... I'm just curious how this balance was going to feel. So I've been playing through, seeing how that feels. Yeah, resource availability does vary massively. So I do want to make that a little bit more configurable, but right now it's scaled pretty heavily in one direction. So we've got like a railcraft boiler set up, we've got a steam turbine set up. This is actually just set up. Why can't I click on that? There we go. So we're actually producing power again. But yeah, just like relatively like someone just randomly downloads Immersive Railroading off CurseForge, adds it to a pack, and sees what the experience is like. So these are too expensive. That will be fixed. And honestly, so based on the Patreon feedback, 1.11 of IR is slated to have new structures, and I will likely try and fold in the new crafting, at least some of the new crafting system into that. I'm still not sure to what degree that's going to happen, but I would like to get that set up properly. Because this is, like, so when we played through, it's only in the past couple days that we've actually had access to IR, and we've been playing for a week. I mean, we've had some stuff, but haven't, like, really been able to build for quite some time. Have you seen me flipping back and forth? I've got my OBS set up over here on my other desktop. But anyways, so it's been a while since I've actually felt the struggle of getting into IR and having it not really be useful until mid to honestly late game in a bunch of respects. I mean, this isn't fully late game, but it's getting pretty close. Like, this is mid to late game. And again, to Sebastian's point, like, it does vary pack to pack, but I do want IR to, at least by default, somewhat fit into, like, at least have an experience that doesn't completely suck when you just download it and add it to your random kitchen sink pack. That's a fairly reasonable playthrough. Again, it's a very subjective thing, but something to do. So yeah, so we got like a mob spawner set up, Britannia, a bunch of AE nonsense, some dimensions to help with getting ores. This is the initial railcraft and the coke and steel furnace, blast furnace setup. Again, not nearly enough sleep that I was supposed to get last night, so it might be a little bit disjointed. Hopefully not too bad. But this is really what you need to start building the machines, and it's some basic rolling stock. I'll go down the line a little bit later and show off what is actually needed in survival to have a reasonable amount of stuff for IR, so you're actually building along significant lines, which I think is cool that you can scale up to that point, but for just getting into the mod, the balance is way off, and it does need to be fixed. Alright, so, got a few more people hopping on. I'm just going to keep, probably for the next 5 minutes, talking about what we've got here, what I want to go over, and then dive into it. So, I do need to figure out how to set up these streams so they post to the Patreon ahead of time, so that people have a link. Hey, there's Larky. Also, if you're a Patreon, you want to hop in and hop on the server and fly around during the stream, feel free. I don't think we're going to do this every week, but for stuff like this, it would be... I think it's a cool thing to do. And I do just want to say that I have been sort of falling in love with Minecraft all over again, because, as I've said to a lot of people who've been on the server, I haven't actually played Minecraft through with the goal of immersive railroading, honestly, since probably 2019? Yeah, so it's maybe even 2018. So it's been a lot of just developing and not playing, and it's a reason for some of the breaks, and I think that's why I've been, I mean, a lot of the reason I've been focusing on some of the technical aspects of this, because the Minecraft side of things has not been something I've played in a long time. But I spent actually let me pull up my game stats. Um, yeah, so in the past week I've played almost 3 days, um, with not a lot of AFKing. Um, let's see, how many blocks broken? Chiseled. Items added to the storage system. Extracted. Where's the blocks? So I've mined almost 60,000 pieces of cobblestone. How much iron? 6,000 iron. Yeah, that's about right. But yeah, so well, it looks like most of the people are on at this point. Yeah, not a ton of people this afternoon. I need to start doing these polls ahead of time so I get more people on like actually live for these streams. But yeah, so I just want to go over what's on my plan. Or rather, what's happened. Yeah, so we'll start with what's been added. I've been playing with a lot of the new features, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But as far as in this past week or so, I got annoyed that I didn't have access to railcraft materials. So most of these pieces of track are built using railcraft ties. So it integrates with railcraft by default now on 112 back through 1710. I actually don't think railcraft ever ported to 111, so that code is just disabled there. But that is what it is. Excuse me. So that wasn't too hard, but that was honestly a pretty big quality of life improvement to make the integration feel a little bit more seamless. Yeah, more bang for buck for... Oh yeah, so as I've been playing, I've been doing some minor tweaks to some of the costs. So like the rails, you instead of getting 12 by default, you get 20. So it's almost double. Plates in most cases have doubled. Boiler plates are still pretty expensive, but you don't make nearly as many of those. So it's still, at least on standard gauge, one plate to one boiler segment from steel. And oh, I did play around with the casting UI a little bit. Oh, and for those of you who haven't seen this, if you click on, let's say, the Firefly, if I click on this, it actually will cast all of the subcomponent, which for the Firefly doesn't actually make too much sense. But if you come over to the big boy and there's like a couple dozen components, if you click on this and click single casting, it will cast the entire big boy, and then when you right click, it'll drop all the parts, or you can extract into a chest, which I think is pretty sweet. That's been one of the bigger quality of life improvements. Another thing is, by default in this pack, and again, this is only one of those things that I see playing through it, is so depending on how the ore dictionary is set up in the pack, the type of steel that you see here might not be the type of steel that you want. So refined iron was the default in this pack for steel. So now it shows all the different types of steel. This, let me know if you want this to. Let me know if you want this to be configurable, but I think this is a pretty sane default, so you can choose which type of steel you want output. Again, this is only based on the ore dictionary, so it's not going to like cheese the game too much. Let's see. Misco mentioned patron chat. Yeah, so I'm just going to go to the VC. Well, let me finish this, and then I'll go to some of the stuff that's been put in the YouTube chat on the side. Yeah, so effectively you can cast all the different types of steel from the basin, which does make things a little easier. Oh yeah, so if you go into the config settings, one of the new things that was added was immersion level, which you can set to have the throttle and reverser be either independent or dependent. So the dependent, if they're independent, that's the new version. If they're dependent, that's the way it used to work, where you'd really just hit throttle forward, and internally it would move the reverser forward. You'd hit backwards. It would effectively sync it up, so it was really just one key binding. So if you're familiar with the currently released version of Immersive Railroading, we really just have forward, backwards, and center, versus throttle and then forwards and backwards is different settings. So there was an issue where if the server was set to something different than the client, it would do some strange things. Now that should be mostly fixed. So if the client wants to play with it the simple way, it should work just fine. Oh yeah, I updated the plate roller UI. That thing really sucks, and it still really sucks, but not nearly as much as it did before. So there was a bunch of other stuff here. So now all you do is you select the gauge you want to roll, and then you come over here, and these, especially on this version, don't show up terribly distinctly. I should really add a border around this whole user interface, but again, they're over here. But now you just click on, it's not a multi-level UI, you just click on the type you want or the plate that you want, and that's it. There was a lot more convolution to this, which caused people to be very confused. Yeah, so that has been reworked. Again, not to the point where I'd actually be happy with this user interface, but to the point where it doesn't actively piss me off when I'm playing the game. That's kind of what I've been hitting throughout the week, is like, this is really driving me nuts. Screw it, let me just hop in and fix it. So that's what a lot of these are. Oh yeah, so let me plop this down. So if I come over here, I'm not actually going to place this, but if I set this to rail bed fill, well, not even the fill. All right, let's actually do cobblestone, because there's a couple different types, but I don't think they're ordict. Yeah, place blueprint. That should be all set. Oh, I guess I need to move it. Okay, so here's a good example. So we've got gravel, cobblestone, and then wooden ties or creosote wood blocks. So those are both options, at least in this version. Ignore the translation issues. There's something weird with 1.7.10, or maybe I broke the translation file. I'll figure that out later. But you see how there's multiple options here? Sometimes, depending on how this is configured, there'll be like 20 or 30 different options here, and it just completely spams the chat. I don't have a good example, but if there's more than 3 options here, it just puts in an ellipsis, even though it does wrap to here. So at most it only takes up 2 lines of the chat instead of like completely spamming it. So that's something that helps. Again, just stuff that was actively pissing me off as I played the game. Curvosity. This I'm pretty happy with. This is, that's not the right tool to use on that. Custom curve. Hey, Loki. Grab my gold spike. So if I come over to here, this isn't actually, well, I'll do this so it's less blinky. So if I come over here, this track looks reasonable, but it might not be exactly what I want, so actually I just thought of a bug that I think is, yeah, turns should not have curvosity. That's a bug. Let me write that down real quick. Okay, so this is actually, this is what it's set to by default. So you see that? You see how that tweaked right there? It's changing how sharp the curve is all the way up to something that's really not that great. Sometimes when you're like, if I come all the way over here, I mean, that's still not what you want, but you get the idea. Let me just fly over here and like make this a little bit bigger. Alright, so that's the curvosity. So I can bring that down to there, and hey, that's actually not that bad. And in this case, this is just a nice to have. It's not terribly functional, but one of the bigger problems is when you are placing a switch. Just set that to 22.5 to start, and let's set this back to the default of 1. Hey, Tiger. I'm just going to put this over here so we can see it. So let's say we were placing a switch off in this direction. Oh, that's actually not a great thing. Where's a nice flat piece of land I can play with? I guess over here's good enough. Hey, Haxorus. Alright, so if I come out, well, it might work on this. Yeah, so, okay, so if I come over here, if you didn't already know this, this is set up so that you can actually set up some pretty cool stuff with turnouts. I can plop that down, and, oops. Let's do some invalid. That's not actually what I wanted to do. If I plop this down, and let me set this to, I don't know, 70? Which is a little bit reasonable. And I come over here, this will be a little bit hard to see. If I come over here and let's say click roughly where this is going to land, you see how that just kind of squinched, for lack of a better term? So in this case, the switch is probably still functional, but it's not, well, actually, that may or may not be functional given how screwy this happens. And again, this is, you're switching from a normal curve to a custom curve, and there's some weird stuff in the math of cubic curves and how I've got this stuff set up where, like, I've chosen a really good default for the original usage of custom curves, which is just like pulling from like here to somewhere else. But when you're trying to replicate curves or even other things, it doesn't always look good. So if I bring the curvosity back to like 0.8, that actually looks pretty good, or maybe even, I don't know, 0.75. But oh, what if I change this to a 45-degree turn? Oh, actually that doesn't do anything because it's a custom curve now. But yeah, so this makes doing custom turnouts dramatically easier and makes them actually look good. And I'm sure there's all sorts of other stuff to do with this. This isn't... I know a lot of people are hoping that at some point I do add the ability to modify the control points on the cubic curve. If you're not familiar with what I'm... Oops. There we go. So... Wikipedia... cubic curves is effectively you've got start point, end point, and then the control points. And depending on where you move those, this thing looks different. So if you weren't familiar with the math behind it, that's what it's called. Again, Wikipedia has a much more complex and convoluted thing, but yeah, you can there's some examples here where you can see how the different control points produce different curves. Anyways, so adding the ability to select individual control points would be something cool, but that would honestly almost be its own track placement tool that's separate from this one. And I don't... That's a much larger ask, or just a drastically different mode of track placement. So I really don't want to fiddle with that too much. But in the meantime, this curvosity setting is pretty cool. And I'm pretty happy with it. Let's go to that. Bloop. So again, default, something more reasonable. So if I were to hypothetically change this to, I don't know, that, I mean, there's really no way to make that look good. Let me go back to that there. Again, different levels of curvosity might look good depending on what you're trying to do. So, anyways, it's a pretty cool setting. And I'm reasonably happy with it. Let me check. Shoot. Well, I think I implemented this wrong. Let's take a look at the code. And then, really quick, oh yeah, name tag, so I'll get to that in a second, then I'll go to the Patreon checks. I know there's a bunch of stuff going on there. So, if you weren't already familiar, you could take a name tag, like this, steel ingot, coal, iron ingot, I think there's one over here with, yeah, this one is tendered, and you can right-click that on augments and on pieces of rolling stock, and it will set a label, so that if this is labeled as tender, it will only act on pieces of rolling stock that are labeled tender. And by the fact that you see some other stuff in my inventory, you can probably guess that there's other stuff during the stream that we're going to go over and see some actual usages of this. I think this is single-handedly the biggest automation improvement I've ever added to immersive railroading, other than the augments. Even the redstone control stuff, I think, pales compared to the power of this, because this is super powerful and honestly replaces a lot of what people do with computers, at least at the basic level. Anyways, I originally added this. Let me pop this out to show you. So if I right-click on this, before it didn't actually tell you that it did anything, it just kind of was like, maybe something happened, maybe something didn't. Good luck. Now it actually tells you, and if now I hop in here, there's a label here that says tender. So by default, it'll be whatever the stock name is. So this one is K4 Pacific. And if I come over to here, like A5 switcher. But if I come to the tender, this one is named the same thing, tender. And that means that only stuff that has tender on it, when you're driving across these augments, will hook into it. Super powerful, and I'm really happy with it. But again, so just some quality of life improvements there. Okay, so curvosity. Let me pull that up. I just want to check the code real quick before I forget, because I'm a little bit distracted today, and then Patreon comments, I promise. I feel like I'm singing more than I usually do. Track. How am I doing on memory? I just want to double check this. Alright, 17 gigs. We'll keep an eye on that. If that hits like 30 gigs, I might just drop off and that'll be the end of the stream. So, we'll see. Cubic curve. Here we go. Get curve. So, I think this is right. Yeah, that does look like it's correct. So this is control guess, because that's just the distance from both ends. Yeah, because that's angle 2 is opposite angle, and then there's some other stuff in there. Right, so, okay, that explains why that's happening. We switched that out. I think Wrong has the MOW train, nowhere. Wrong has that down by the, let me pull up the map. We've laid a non-trivial amount of track. I think, I'm gonna guess it's down by the oil field, because Wrong was doing some work down there. So, yeah, and I'm actually gonna ask folks to stay off the, like this, if you can see my screen, stay off this section of the main line if you can, or at least put it in chat if you're going to be on there during the stream, because I've got some stuff I want to show off. But like, there's track that goes this way. I don't actually know how complete this is. I know Tiger was headed out that way, so there should be track going that way. Or just, again, coordination, we should be fine. Oh, yeah, Tiger says it's up by the jungle. Somebody has it. That's not me. Anyways, curvosity, I was looking at this. Okay. So, Patreon comments. So, real quick, Haxorus said, yeah, curvosity needs a different word, like. It's a word that I made up on the fly that seemed to fit. Technically, it's the factor of curvature. But if you call it curvature, then it's not actually curvature, it's a factor of curvature. And factor of curvature is something that doesn't fit really nicely in a user interface. So I called it curvosity because it's kind of a funky thing. I don't know. Throw your suggestions in the chat or leave a YouTube comment with suggested names. Honestly, something about that length to fit in the UI would be ideal. But again, throw your ideas up there. Yeah. Hey, there's Tiger. So, right. And then other comments. Sebastian said, yep. Yeah, the whole base IR needs a UI pass. Yeah. It's functional, but it's not fantastic. So maybe some tweaks to that in 111. Um, I don't really want to do a full overhaul. There's other stuff I'd like to do first that's a little bit more like day-to-day, makes life easier, um, like structures and that sort of thing. But yeah, we'll see. It depends on what the next couple of months look like for me, and we'll talk about that a little bit toward the end, hopefully. If I forget, bring it up. Um, Again, if you're just joining, I did not really sleep much last night, so this is going to be a little bit more seat of the pants than usual. Maybe a little bit more humming and making funny noises. Okay, and Mizco. Yeah, so there's some stuff that you've mentioned in the Patreon chat, like like cargo for passenger coaches. Um, that brings up a discussion on like currently stock is segmented into a bunch of different things. And for those of you who aren't modelers, let me pull this up just so I've got the reference, because I've got this in front of me already. Brain is not working. Resources, stock.json. So there's locomotives, tenders, hand cars, passengers, and freight, and tanks. So currently all three of these are different. So passenger, freight, and tank. It might be possible to turn those into their own thing, or maybe even combine this whole thing. So, depending on what you supply as part of the stock config, it might internally put it into one of those categories, but making this a little bit more flexible so you could have a passenger car that, I don't know, you fill it with fruit juice. Who knows? Like, to each their own. But, like, having cargo in passenger cars, like, that might work. There's some stuff behind the scenes for how this stuff is built, namely how entities works, which I know Dark yells at me about, and we go back and forth on a lot. But maybe some tweaks to this coming up. Again, not breaking anything, but adding some additional options to make this a little bit more flexible. Again, if my dedication to 1.7.10 is any indication, I very much try to spend a non-trivial amount of time making sure that stuff that was built years ago still works. Sometimes, especially with worlds, you have to load it in intermediary versions, like especially some of the really big changes to the track. But like, there should always be a way to get like, honestly, even the first worlds, some of the first worlds that were created with IR should mostly work with the later version, like latest versions, with the caveat that you may have to load some intermediary versions and just load the track so it converts over. But anyways, yeah, combining all the different types for support for emus. Yeah, like, honestly, like, even putting, like, I think all of these should be, I might just add, like, a general category stock and have that figured out. There's a much larger discussion on, like, how that could fit together. I still like them being broken out into individual folders, like, in the resource packs, but again, that's up to the individual modeler. I don't actually enforce any of, well, no, I do technically enforce that part. Anyways, yeah. Yeah, that's a discussion that we'll need to have. It will not be in this release, the 110 release, but definitely for consideration. Yeah, sounds is like one of the last major things that was added in this last round of development that is not super fantastic. That wasn't on the list because it was already at the end of the to-do list on the latest test build post. So that's on the list. I just have not gotten around to digging into that to the detail that it requires. Yeah. Yeah. Decorate. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we can definitely play with that. Cab cars. I know, they're still technically locomotives. Yeah, that would potentially fix this. Oh, I did potentially find a way that in the creative menu you might be able to search for, like, add a search bar to, like, the Immersive Railroading tab, which would be kind of cool. Oh, Misko, I was just talking about, like, what you're talking about, at least in the first part, would require some pretty drastic changes, to this stuff. I think, potentially. And I think that would happen, probably come in 111 instead of 110. The sounds, just to reiterate, that is all still on the to-do list. I do know that they're not in as good a shape as they should be. That's one of the last big things that was added in this round of development that's not stable, or not finalized. But that's still on the to-do list for the test builds. I should bother putting it in this list because this is like stuff that wasn't already as part of that. Yeah. Yeah, the search bar honestly should be a UMC tweak. I don't know if that'll be supported in all Minecraft versions, but hey, you never know. I'm gonna have a quick drink of water. Okay. So, what's currently broken? Sounds, as we just covered with Mizco. And if I'm saying your name wrong, Mizco, please let me know. I honestly don't know how to pronounce it. Or rather, how you'd like for me to pronounce it. But, yeah, so... Broken. This is stuff that's, like, I actually need to fix before we could consider releasing. The auto build system, I made some changes to the Gradle, which is some of the automation stuff for building and pushing the test builds and eventually the releases. That whole pipeline is kind of borked. I've been doing some really awful hacks for the past year or two to get the UMC integration working, and I kind of need to revisit it. It's not going to take a ton of work, but I need to kind of redo some of the stuff from the ground up. This is not, again, this is, to be clear, this is not rewriting UMC, this is rewriting the... So if I want to, so for example, if I want to switch immersive railroading, my local checkout of the code, so right now I'm set against 1.7.10, if I want to switch it to 1.12, so my development environment is pointed to 1.12, I would do something like this. So Gradle W, UMC, UMC loader, yada yada. So effectively run command that says 1.12.2-forge. The way this piece is set up is a really nasty, awful, no-good hack that I should never have done in the first place, but I did because I thought it would be cool, and I thought I understood Gradle better than I did. Long story short, that doesn't work, especially with some of the new stuff I'm doing, which is required to support new Forge versions. So, it's not fantastic. Yeah. Sebastian, can you put that in a GitHub suggestion? Just looking at that real quick. Oh, hacks. Okay, cool. I'll try and call you by hacks if I remember. Anyways, long story short, this is terribly broken, and the way I did it was really crappy, and I should rebuild it. So that's if I were to estimate it, and I hate estimating things. Probably a day or two of development, just picking at it. Not too bad. Pain in the butt. Honestly needs to be done and would fix a lot of the issues with other people getting the code checked out and set up. And would set the stage for some of the other stuff that I want to do with UMC going forwards, but anyways. That's going to be a couple days of fiddling around and fixing that. Not too bad, but just something that needs to happen. As I've been playing, I've seen a little bit of odd entity sync derpiness with the server with multiple people on. So I'm going to add some logging in the next couple days, hop on the server, both client and server, and get some good logs telling me how the synchronization is going, and what it thinks it's synchronizing and what it's actually synchronizing, and what the timing offsets are. Effectively, if you're not familiar, immersive railroading says, okay, every 2 seconds it recalculates where it thinks pretty much all the rolling stock should be, and steps them forward in time, and figures out, okay, over the next 2 seconds, every Minecraft server tick, these are going to be the new positions of all the stock. This is simplifying it a little bit, but long story short, that's kind of what's happening. And then the server then says, okay, hey client, for the next 2 seconds, here's where I think the stock should be, so you step through it at the same time. So instead of the server sending information every tick, so every 20th of a second, this is where I think sending a packet every 20th of a second saying, hey client, hey client, hey client, like instead of like, hey, what's up? This is where I think you should be. It takes a breath, takes 2 seconds, figures out this is I'm going to tell you my predictions. I'm going to give you my predictions, and then in 2 more seconds, I'll probably send you another packet that tells you where you should be going in the next 2 seconds. Hopefully that made sense. I gave a much longer talk at a Minecon a couple of years back on what that is. Long story short, it's why that immersive railroading synchronization, when it works well, is really smooth. But there's some weird edge cases that I want to get to the bottom of. That's really all I needed to say. I've got some good test cases. I can dig into that. And yeah. Hopefully get that working a little better. We'll see. It's definitely better than it used to be, but it could still use a little bit of tweaking. I don't want to spend more than a day on that, but it is bothering me that it should be smoother than it is. And yeah, there's just a little bug there. So I've been keeping track of some other bugs that I've found as I've been playtesting on 1.7.10, which have been bothering me. Excuse me, some of these are critical, like angle bounding boxes are not working correctly. Translations are not working correctly. In a couple of cases, that should be an easy fix. This one should be as well. Excuse me, I seem to have the hiccups. Let me drink some more water. I guess that happens when I talk too much without taking a breath. Okay. Some of the locomotive interactions are working. So there's just some like tweaks on 1.7.10 that need to happen before it's really stable, but none of these are too crazy. Like both of these I think are related. There's some weird bounding box stuff happening that just needs to be fixed. It's probably one bug in the code that's causing a couple issues. But yeah. So, oh, and these are just some general stuff that I need to fix. And not all of these may go into the release, but like, actually this one is not a bug. I looked into that in more detail. This, I want to make sure I'm doing this. Maybe. Oh, no, I'm actually going to get rid of that. That's not a thing. Okay. Anyways, back to the stream. Hopefully this is at least semi-coherent. I know I'm a little bit out of it today. Okay, so that's like, so playtesting, found some issues on 1.7.10, found some issues in IR that I want to get to the bottom of, and in the process of doing some UMC stuff, I've broken the build pipeline, which needs to be fixed. This is honestly a week or two of development of my time that I can spare getting into that. And we'll work our way through that. So that's what's to do. That's what's been done. And since we have a bunch of people on, and before people start dropping toward the end, because we're only, I guess 40 minutes in. I thought we were going to be doing a lot more playing. I had a lot to say. Sorry about that. Anywho, the playtest live versions. So yeah, so this is what I want to talk to you. So if you're a Patreon and you're watching this, and I'll post the. You should have the link, but I'll post that I asked some questions during the live stream that I'd like you guys to respond to. So I'm curious what you guys feel like. A lot of these come to like when to push the release, how much bug fixing that you'd like me to do. Because I know that a lot of the modelers have released packs that require stuff that's in the latest immersive railroading version, or at least to function properly. So it's balancing stability versus getting features out there so that people can actually use them. Because, again, due to some personal stuff, this release has been taking longer than I would have liked. But it is what it is. Anyways, just with that in mind, saying like this is a lot of these are a balance between how soon to push the release versus how stable we should have it. Honestly, I'm pretty convinced that the features that are in as of today are going to be the features it launches with. I don't really want to add anything else significant before the 1.10 release. Tweaks and fixes, yes, but I just want to get this out there with the features it has today. And okay, so what I wanted to talk about with patrons is playtesting versions, I want to know your feedback on like how you feel like the 1.7.10 server has gone. I'm hoping to shut down the 1.7.10 server. No, sorry. I'm hoping to move on to the 1.16.5 server. Sometime early to mid next week. Hopefully I can get the 1.7.10 stuff knocked out. Probably do another kitchen sink pack sort of thing where you can cheese resources easily enough that it's not too hard to bootstrap into the mod. If I do a beta on CurseForge, people are just going to go for it, and I'm going to have to deal with bug reports from them. So, yeah, I just sorry responding to Sebastian in chat. I like to just, if I can, do full releases. Sometimes if it's like 1.18 where even Forge isn't fully stable at that version yet, yeah. But anyways, getting back to playtesting versions. So what I want to do is wrap up 1.7.10. I do, to be clear, I have very much been enjoying playing 1.7.10, and I do want the server to stay online, so I'm going to move it to a system that has a little bit less resources, but can just live in the cloud, and when people aren't playing, it shuts itself down. When people try and connect to it, within a minute or so, it spins itself back up. It's a pretty neat system. I took some existing open source code, figured out how it worked, went my own way with it, and have my own dynamic Minecraft server set up. So I can actually have a bunch of Minecraft servers sitting there, just not doing anything and not costing me money unless people are actually playing them. So that kind of evens out the people paying money from Patreon to access them versus how much it actually costs to run a decently sized Minecraft server. So, anyways, 1.7.10, the server, I do want to stick around for at least a couple months and play on it until we get really bored with it, because I like 1.7.10. It's nostalgic, and I like how simple Minecraft is at that point. Anyways, that's a whole nother discussion. So 1.16.5 is next on the chopping block. There's enough people heavily playing 1.12 right now. Andrew Boot more in the survival sense, and Winslow on the creative sense. I know there's a lot more servers on. Those are the only ones I've interacted with personally. But they give me those are like some active playtests, so I'd feel less bad about skipping 1.12. I definitely want to playtest 1.16.5. I may do some playtesting of 1.14 or 1.15, but there's honestly not a lot of people on those versions anymore. So I might just do like a day or so of playing around in a semi-creative world with those. But yeah, let me know if you think doing a 1.16.5 playtest with that sort of like kitchen sinky pack would make sense for you guys, and if that would be worth me spending the time, because it's honestly taken a lot of time away from my day-to-day development working on like just playing through the test server, but I've been deeply enjoying it and has been dramatically improving my morale for like working on IR and getting back into it. So let me know what you think on like how much you think we should really beat that dead horse on 1.16.5 before the release. But again, thoughts on what you think, because honestly, you guys are paying for a fair portion of my time. I mean, with how much I'm making on Patreon, it definitely pays for like, let's call it a day's worth of development a week, maybe. But I mean, you are footing the bill for a non-trivial amount of this stuff, so I do value what you think I should be focusing my time on. If you think that I should set it up and hop on once other folks have set up the server, if I should start it with a bunch of creative resources, like, again, let me know. Yeah. Yeah, setting up an announcement channel for test builds. I think once they're to that point where they're not quite on CurseForge yet, but they are like, yeah, that's an option. And announcement channels are easy to mute. Yeah. So thoughts on like how important you think the playtesting has been. I feel like it's been really useful for me. the amount of small quality of life fixes that I wouldn't have found otherwise this week is actually pretty high, and I feel pretty good about that. But again, it's less time for actually sitting down and like just going ham into some new features or like stuff. So, and I'm actually gonna, yeah. So we kind of talked about when to push the release, how much testing to do. My goal is to, once the 1.16.5 setup is stable, and we've played through that a fair amount, I would like to just get that out the door. So hopefully by the time the 1.16.5 playthrough is done, I'll be ready to release. But that's what I'm leaning toward. Yeah. But again, please leave comments on all this stuff either in the Patreon chat, the chat on the side, or in the YouTube comments if you're seeing this after the fact. The next thing I kind of want to talk about is some more interaction stuff. So throttle reverser default settings. So I talked about this a little bit earlier. So if I go to config, and I do actually want to play this, but I got into the you got me monologuing, you sly devil. No. For those of you who aren't familiar, Incredibles reference. Anyways, there's this new immersion level setting, so I'm starting to think about more like general immersion levels for immersive railroading. I think there's going to be a custom immersion user interface at some point that's going to deal with this, but that's way down the line. Long story short, this setting back and forth, currently it's set to true, which means the throttle and the reverser are linked by default. With a lot of the stock that has movable widgets, it really doesn't make sense. And honestly, I'm going away toward that. So, do you think it would be too confusing for people if I set that to false, so that when you sit down with Immersive Railroading to start... oh god, frame rate. Let me check my memory usage, make sure I'm not gonna die. Okay, we're up to 19 gigs, so I've got another hour before it really becomes a problem. And so I've got my throttle and reverser. Like, would it be too confusing for people to right out of the bat have two different controls for throttle and reverser? Like, that's... Every build or every version of IR prior to this has been a single control. Do you think it would be too confusing having the default be two separate controls? Yeah. I've gone back and forth on that personally. I'm currently leaning toward having them be distinct by default, and have the ability to switch back to the way it was before, just for the simple gameplay. Yeah. Message first time load. I haven't done that before, but I can definitely take a look at trying to do that. I might just, yeah, I might do that for like maybe 110 and 111, and once that's done, just get rid of that option so it doesn't spam people every time. Yeah. When to push the release, talked about that. Oh yeah, tanks, millibuckets to liters. So as I've been playing through, I've been thinking about this a lot. So let's fly over here. This is a railcraft tank, if you're not familiar. This stores 2,400 buckets in this space. This tank car, which is fairly normal tank car, stores 85 buckets. So it's going to take several passes of that trains to dump into there. Oh, looks like I was missing some chat. Yeah, it's unified again for the settings. It's true. Here it might be better. Oh, well, yeah, it's actually I can show this actively. Let me do it on this piece of stock. which is just sitting here burning. Yeah. Oops, that's the bell. So if I go into config, merge normal, set that to true. So if I, so you see how both of those, maybe I didn't actually fix that setting. Bah. Anyways, maybe I need to fix that a little bit more. We'll see. Again, I'm leaning toward that default being false, and to your point, Tiger, like this whole user interface over here, if someone wants to come up with a better one by default, and has the options for the different types of stock, like, I would be more than happy if a modeler or even someone from the general community comes up with that and plops it in. That would be fantastic. This is something that Legend and I kind of cooked up to get it working basically, but definitely not married to it in any sense of the word. So, anywho, right. So yeah, back to tanks. So this, I think by default tanks are a little bit small. I think by default they should be about 10 times bigger, so based on the size of like that, and the fact that like tanks, like a single block in Minecraft can store effectively an infinite amount of liquid, depending on like deep storage units and that sort of thing. I think for like gameplay, I kind of want to scale this up by a factor of 10. I want to hear what people think about that who actually play this in survival. And B, I wonder how that would feel with like one of the honestly the biggest concern I have is boilers. So I would need to be very careful not to break boiler mechanics if changing the default there. But again, just leave your comments either. I've already said, you know where I'm going to see them. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, especially. I don't think yours fits base AR, but something with a similar level of complexity might be nice. Yeah. So, take mill buckets to... Yeah, so that's... Yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about that. Okay, so... Again, and getting back to how quickly to release it, bounding boxes, like, can be a little bit screwy. And the way they're implemented between different Minecraft versions can change dramatically. So, what I would like to do is spend a non-trivial amount of time adding tests for the bounding box code. Excuse me. Oh, yeah, sorry. Back to Sebastian. Yes, so yes, the tank mill buckets to liters, that is a config option, but I don't know how stable that is, and I'm not sure the default is correct. Anyways, yeah, this may break steam locomotives in very interesting ways. It may break weight of stuff in interesting ways, so that needs to be... I need to validate that A, it works as I expect, and that it doesn't break trains. I added that setting a long time ago, and I think there's even a warning in the config file. Anyways, so... This is like one of those, like, how much are you guys itching for me to just get this out there versus doing this the right way? Bounding boxes are funky. I could add a bunch of tests in the code to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do in a bunch of different scenarios. That would probably add at least a couple days plus porting to different versions, so that would be a couple days to worst case a week's worth of time. Yeah. So, or I could just hotfix it as we play through it and say close enough and then add this later on. I do want to do this eventually. That's been on my list for a while, but like if you're comfortable with me just like as we're playtesting through, honestly, between 1.7.10 is dramatically different than 1.10 through 1.12, which is dramatically different from 1.14 through 1.16, which is dramatically different from 1.17 through 1.18 and up. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, if you guys are comfortable with me taking a little bit more time, not a huge amount, but a little bit more, and doing that the right way, I would like that. But again, I'll wait to get more feedback from more folks. And Lean out windows. This is something that playing through has really been bothering me. This is a good segue into actually playing the darn game that I said, oh, this is going to be different. We're going to actually play the game. Yeah. That's, especially with in-cab controls, being able to stand here and, like, look out the side to see where I'm going would be really nice. Also, sounds are derpy because sounds are derpy, and I need to completely revisit how I do that in immersive railroading. There we go. Unfortunately, we're not going to get a chuff for this, which stinks. TPS is looking good. Alright. So, what are we doing right now? A, I enjoy the car sway. I know there will be additional revisions that feels a little bit more realistic, but at least this initial version, it gives me the warm fuzzies. Right, we're coasting pretty well right now. So, what are we actually doing? We are grabbing these cars, which I'm about to run into. Alright, let me actually use the in-game controls. Alright. Alright, there we go. Oh, shunting mode. My mistake. Let me check that. So, what are we going to do? Actually, let me fiddle with this so I can actually see what you guys are saying as I'm doing this. Okay. Oh, you can't hear game audio? I mean, other than that that's in the background the whole time? Ooh, shake when coupling. That's an interesting thing. Where's my OBS? That's over here. It looks like it should be coming through. Here, let me blow the horn. Okay. Right, shunting mode. I was planning on doing a little bit more operations. So the rest of this is going to be just Q&A mixed with some shunting operations. I'm going to do a little bit of talking here. And then I'll probably switch over to the Patreon VC. Oh, it's quiet. Okay. Options, music and sounds. There we go. Shunting mode, normal mode. This will be a little bit louder, so I'm going to have to speak up as I come closer to this. Okay, these are both in normal mode. Now I can connect a couple. Yeah, you see how it's jumping a little bit? That shouldn't be doing that. So I need to figure that out. Alright, oh. So what are we doing? We're taking materials to the steel mill. And this is showing how useful I think the new tag system is, and how much of a game changer it is. So without any programming, any other advanced knowledge, you can set up some really cool, not even automation, but like item loading and unloading. Fun. Go. Yeah, see how that's a little bouncy? It shouldn't be that bouncy. Oop, that's the wrong way. Reverser. Oh, the whistle was me, Tiger, if you were curious. Alright. So this, we're going to bring this way, and we're going to drop this off at the coke processing plant. Alright. Yep. Yeah, Misko just asked how do the name tags work. Yeah, so so I name the name tag and then I click on this, and when you want to check it, if you right click, you can see this one says coal, this one says tender, so only augments that have been given tender. God, thunderstorm. There we go. Sorry. So yeah, so you do that, and so as long as the augment matches the name here, it's also... Oh, one thing I do want to add is, like, if I come over to these augments, just to show, like, I've got some augments over here, and yes, I see that, I know that's a bug, it's just a visual glitch. So these, it would be nice that, like, if you're this close, it actually shows, like, a little, like name tag, like name plate above it saying that's what it's filtering on. That I might do, because that's a pretty big quality of life thing, just for making sure your stuff is tagged correctly. Yeah. Don't use the key bindings, actually do this. Brake is off. Full reverser. Let's actually get moving some. I don't know why this is so bouncy. It was better before. There we go. Also, my render distance is low just because my machine is not happy about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yeah, and though, honestly, augments are not a permanent system. Alright. There we go. That should be a little bit more. And it's not shoving, which is bothering me, and I know I need to fix that. Alright. So we parked over here. You can see most of these coke ovens are off. If I right-click on this, it's starting to extract. If I hop down below... this is a tank for doing the fluid unloading. We might do that later. But this is an item unloader, which has been set to coal, so we'll only pull stuff out of cars that are labeled coal. Or sorry, this is the item one. That's the fluid one. And this is just an extra utilities transfer node that's pulling out coal and eventually moving it over here. So these, as we sit here, should start burning more and more. So while I wait for this to finish dumping out, these should all be... That one's not. I must not be lined up well. Yeah, I gotta move forward a little bit. Let's see, is that better? 1, 2, 3. I think that's good. Yeah, so yeah, all these are emptying now. This is going to take a bit. What I've done on the other side, and this is a recommendation for those of you playing, that if you want to buffer here, and this is actually, this also helps with some of the filtering, is these have a barrel right underneath. So in this case, this one is inserting steel into the barrel, and this one is pulling iron out of the car. So putting barrels or some other chest underneath helps as a buffer so that loading and unloading is quicker and works better. Alright, so I'm going to disconnect from here and I'm going to go grab a bunch of iron. Shunting mode. Use the actual controls. Actually, I'll catch up to that in a sec. That is set correctly. This is not. Need to be set here. That will go over there. So you see that right there? I need to fix that. Also, this might be a problem. Uh-oh. Yeah, not my finest hour. It's going to collide into another train, which will hopefully stop it. If not, oh, no, it's just going to phase right through it. Tiger, you want to go catch that? Oh. Yeah, and this is the bounding box thing that was broken. Put the brake on full. That was fun. Let's go see what happened here. It went down this tunnel. I'm gonna guess it's off the end of the track here. Oh, Hack's got it? Excellent. Oops. Mistakes were made. Alright. If you want to bring that back, I'm gonna hop on the A5, and I'll use that for a little bit. And I'm gonna pick up a bunch of junk. So, we're gonna hop over into the siding. So, yeah. So we've got, this is where steel's being unloaded, so I've got an unloader and a loader, and I've got iron being loaded here, so, might move a few more stacks while I'm here. Again, you can set up your AE system to export. So we have a ton of iron ingots. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the iron consist, and all I need to do is drive it over here, then drive it to where I want it to go. And that's all the operations you need. Train factory side. Just leave it for now. I'm just going to use the A5. You can bring it through the tunnel, but be careful going too much past that. Decoupled enchanting mode. Decoupled enchanting mode. Okay, that's where I want to be. I'm going to start moving forward. Oh yeah, that's, keep reminding me of that Mizco, like I do want to get that working. Oh, there you are. Okay. Yay, 1710. Oh no, that chunk's just not happy right now. So I'm gonna switch this. This is one of the big, so double slips do work most of the time, if set up correctly. So one thing I want to do after 110 is out is actually do a whole tutorial series on immersive railroading. Because there's stuff that I would like to do that's not the way I'd like it. That didn't make much sense. Anyways, which one of these am I going to be switching to? This is steel. This is iron. So we want to come down this track. And we'll switch this. Oh, no, we want to go down this one. So there we go. Yeah, iron. So we'll go here, we'll drive back and pick up some iron. There we go. These switches. That should be set. That should be okay going this way. Yeah, it should not be derping like that. I need to figure out what's going on there. Actually, let me flip this as well. You should be good to highball on the immersive railroading side of the right side of the track if you want to play around. I'm just planning on using the left track for the moment. Oh, right. Helps if I actually put on the... Oh, this was chuffing before. That's interesting. I gotta figure out why that's not working. Oh, let me write that down. play with that. Okay. So there we go. This is all set. Oop, this way. Oh. And it would help if I turn the brake off. Oh, I was moving the window. This should be set to off. Off, that's good. This one I have to be a little bit more careful with because this can more easily derail. Oh, double crossover. Sorry, not a double slip. Thank you, Sebastian. What you guys may not know is, like, immersive railroading is the closest thing to a train simulator I've actually ever played. I used to play a lot of Railroad Tycoon 3 and had a model train layout. And beyond that, I didn't actually play train simulators. Go down that hill. Okay, so I have something pretty cool over here. Is that, oh, now we're, you see those lights at the end? Oh, no. I forgot to load up the cars. Well, I guess we're gonna highball it backwards. Why are we not moving? Oh, I was... Oops. Nope. I never actually coupled there. Bah. This is what happens when I don't sleep at night. This is not what I want to do. Okay, so that's set to normal mode. Let me check that this is also set to normal mode. I was doing operations all day and actually not screwing it up most of the time. But... shunting mode, normal mode. Okay, so I have set up... there's a redstone update issue, which is why these bottom ones aren't lit, but I've set this up as an end of rail detector, so when I get really closer, if those light up, I know I've gone too far. Anywho. Back to this. Recoupling. I'm just going to use the keys for convenience sake, because I'm annoyed with myself. Okay. Now that we're back to where we were supposed to be, let's do this so we can see what we're doing. Full reverse. Brakes are off. There we go. So I need to load up these cars first before I bring iron to the... yeah. Yeah. Oh, now it's raining. This is probably doing horrible things to this locomotive, partware-wise. That's something I do want to add eventually. Oh, too fast. Brakes, brakes, brakes. Hey, not bad. That's actually about where we wanted to be. Got a little bit lucky there. So what's interesting is I heard the sounds on this locomotive around here. So there's definitely something broken. That is, like, I'll have to come back and rewatch the video and see what I did. Alright, so we've loaded up all the iron. Bunch in there. Oh, that's dumping items. And we got a bunch of items. Okay. So we'll go dump these off, and then we'll go pick up the steel. But, yeah, so this only, again, this only interacted because I had this loader set up here. And notice how it didn't touch the steel, and once I grabbed the... So I'll have another contest, which is labeled steel ingot, when I drive that by, it will dump whatever steel it has in it into that barrel. So we'll do that shortly. I should have explained this whole thing beforehand. Anyways, brakes off, flip the reverser, and get moving. But yeah, leaning out the window, it's what's needed. It's really what's needed. Uh-oh. That is not what I meant to do. Always check your points, ladies and germs. Alright, let's fix that. Alright. Now you get to see how bad at playing this game I actually am. No, other people on the server can attest to it. I was playing just fine most of the day. I'm very much running on fumes. Backwards. A little bit more. It's a little. Oh, brakes. There we go. Alright, looks like we're off that point now. Oop, that's the wrong way. Ah, close enough. I think the rest of the points are good. I'm gonna fly through and check them just to be safe. Oh, no, that... Oops. Oh, this car's getting replaced. So, this is actually a good opportunity for me to plop this down. And I should have a label called creosote. Creosote. There we go. So right now, if I take a look at this, it says tank US2. If I click it with this, it now says creosote. So this will only act on augments that are labeled creosote, or vice versa. That is switched correctly. Okay. Operations are fun. Alright, cursor forward. This will technically go through the siding, but that should be fine. I'm kind of trying to speed run this a little bit so I can side off and grab some food. Oh, nope, 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 nope. Crap. You know, I should have tested those points. Because that's not what I want it to... That's not what I want it to do. Ah. I keep trying to take shortcuts, and shortcuts don't work. That was supposed to be flipped. Alright. Steel will be faster. Promise. Alright, here we go. Okay. Might want to back up. That should be fine. Just keep an eye on it. Those are all set correctly because I have not touched those since the last time I was through there. Yeah. Yeah, I had this all planned out exactly how I wanted to show off these features. And I have made a mess of it. But, anyways. Brakes are off. There we go. Progress. Progress is being made. want to go too crazy into this. This hill can sneak up on you. Tiger, you still need to fix this slope. Right now, I guess I can see it. A little bit more. Keeping an eye on that piece of glowstone, because as soon as that lights up... Oh, well, I can't see now. Yeah, I didn't leave myself much runway here. Come on. Oop, there we go. Alright, now we're at the end. Okay, so you can see these are starting to turn on. And these should all be empty by the time I'm done messing around. Yeah, so what they've done is they have moved all their contents into these barrels. So now you can see this one has iron ingots, and that's being drained out and going over here. And again, the name of the item here, like this name, is not actually what's filtering. What's filtering is, like, you could name the name tag Crazy Town Banana Pants. I don't know. And that would be what it filters on. So but now we've dropped off our load. We're going to go park this and go grab the steel consist, and then go pick up the whatchamacallit. You could, so this could be done differently. You could do the iron drop-off and the steel pickup in the same go. I just didn't end up doing it that way. Honestly, it probably would have been easier, but why are you not happy with me? Backwards, brakes off. Well, let's just go for it. This needs to be fixed. So we're going to go past the yard and then go pick up those cars that are right over there. Yes, I turned the brakes on. Yes, I know that I probably just melted a bunch of brake shoes. That is all set. Those are set. Okay. And this is going to go over there. I can go a little bit faster. Yeah, I think I'm going to do the steel pickup and then probably call that a day. So once I switch over to the steel, I'm going to hop into the Patreon voice chat if you guys want to actually chat real time. I don't know how that'll work with the YouTube audio. Might cause a little bit of a desync lag, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, we'll give it a try. Shunting mode. So now I should be able to back off. Actually, let me do this. Hey, Tiger. Alright. So that's not what I wanted to do. Wrong button. Come on. Oh, I think I was grabbing the window over there. Something a little bit funky on 1710. So I should be able to push these cars all the way through. Come on, reverser. There we go. You got it. This should couple. There we go. Shunting mode. Nope. That was close. Okay, those are both normal mode. Okay, now that we've got this train, I'm gonna go hop over into the Patreon voice chat. If anyone's interested. Heyo.
I should probably turn off the audio of the YouTube stream so I don't hear myself.
That would be smart.
You guys are getting a little bit overwhelmed by immersive railroading sounds. Let me turn that down a little bit.
Okay, one thing that about the sound system is it's never clear which sound slider affects IR sounds.
Oh, ambient.
I hate that because I like to turn down the ambient sounds.
Ah.
Is it possible to just add another slider that's just labeled trains?
It's really hard to do that.
So it's one of those Minecrafty things that's just really annoying to do.
Yep.
It's like, with modding, there are certain things that seem like they would be difficult that are really easy to do. And then there are certain things that seem like they should be really easy that are insanely difficult to do.
So why don't we bake it into the standard GUI? Just add a button or a slider for the volume. The default IR GUI. The train GUI.
Wait, which config?
The train sound volume.
So I'm
Like when you're in
where in here somewhere?
yeah, like down there in the bottom left.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd probably make the most sense. Only a little bit of steel went into that one. A little bit into that one. Nothing in this one. I'm gonna guess this last one has it all? Yeah, this one has it all. So, because this one got here first, it kind of sucked up everything that was in these. There's different ways of doing this, like different item loaders and stuff, but yeah.
Oh
And
god,
second
inventory. Okay, pick up the water.
So if I come under here, yeah, these should all be all empty. Yep.
Like, certain things in your golden bed. Okay.
So and then if I come down here, got a bunch of iron. Pay no attention to my really crappy wiring. And we need to drop off more coal. I mean, I would have dropped off more coal earlier, but we're kind of out.
Import bus. Import bus there.
Alright. So let's bring this back to the
Skystone
base.
there.
Yep, see you later, Tiger. Now that we've picked that up, and we should be able to drop off all of this iron without too much fuss. Nope, 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 nope. That may have derailed, because that's backwards.
There. Export bus to the Skystone chest.
Oh, I think we got lucky. We got lucky. Just barely didn't derail. Okay.
Fluids cable there.
Reversers set the correct direction.
Now all 4 of those are powered. Capacity card.
Alright, so I'm going to wrap this up by dropping off the,
Filter those.
dropping off the steel. And then I think I'm going to call it quits for today, because this has been... I've been on pretty much the whole day working on stuff. Oop. A little bit more goose to get up for the grade. There we go. Bye, pig. At least that part still works.
Or wait, no, I can just... No, I need to have the interface so I can have the rest of it. Cobblestone there. Information
Alright.
lane. Glass cable. Interface. Interface goes on there. Smart cable. Oh, wait a second.
So I'm just going to want to drive over this slowly, and it should. See if I can hop out and watch it. And again, this item loader is not going to touch anything other than... Like, so it's not going to touch Tender, because Tender's named Tender. But as soon as this any steel rolls over it, it should start unloading it. So we got a few there. Couple out of that one. Keep it coming. It's the last one that has most of it in there. A little bit in that one. This one should empty pretty quickly. You can see I've also got this to show like, oh, this is full. So as you're doing operations, you can see when the car is empty. So that was near instant. That's pretty cool. Alright. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show, but that was like a bunch of like trains on the same track with minimal filtering, like the filter... I'm just breaking blocks now. But it lets you do some pretty cool stuff. Sorry, Hax, I was talking over you.
Oh no, I'm just mumbling to myself.
That's most of the stream for me, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just trying to figure out how I'm automating this. Do I still have blank patterns in the pattern terminal? Yes. Okay, good. Oh my god. Okay. Noted. We need more molecular assemblers.
We need more of lots of things. Yeah. So, anyways, if you're a patron, more than welcome to come jump on the server and help test. Have fun doing some operations and building track and whatever you want to do. And hopefully 1.16.5 early-ish next week. I do want to talk about my schedule real quick. Let me pull this up. So this next week, I should be around a fair bit. I do want to work on Contributor Voice, and so my goal is to launch Contributor Voice as a product by the end of June. So that will get done at some point. And then the week of the 22nd through the 28th, I'm going to be on vacation. Actually, not vacation, more like woodland, like working in the woods vacation. But hanging out with family and taking some time away from the computer to the extent that I'm at right now. And then I'll probably be back for like the 29th through the first week of June. So hopefully next week we can get most of the issues ironed. So we can get most of the issues ironed out in 1.7.10 and 1.16.5, and any of the other miscellaneous bugs that are still plaguing the test builds. And hopefully release sometime toward the beginning of June. Fingers crossed. No promises, but that's my tentative plan based on what we talked about tonight. So, yeah. Hopefully this was fun. I probably should have started with operations. Like, if I had more, not peace of mind. If my mind wasn't so fragmented right now, I would have been able to talk while I operated trains, but you could see that I'm just about out of gas for today. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think about this format versus other dev streams I've done. I do really like DM. What? Tiger? Whatever. Anyways, come on, hop on the server. And if you aren't already a patron and you're watching this, yeah, even the $1 a month patrons get access to this, so feel free to hop on.
Okay, well, mystery solved. I found where it's going. I just have no idea why.
I'll leave that as a mystery for next time. So I'm going to stop the stream here. Thanks everyone for hopping on. If you've got any other questions, put them in the Patreon chat, DM me directly, or send me a message over carrier pigeon. Whatever works for you. See you all in the next one.